What's up, wrestling fans? Two Bros Wrestling Show coming at you live through the power of the magic that is wrestling. What's up, Kevin? Been a minute.
Uh, it has been a minute. It is nice to be back live here on our YouTube channel to talk about, well, something that I think is going to hopefully spur some discussion amongst viewers. And that tonight's main event topic is titled, And Then the Bell Rings. And
And
by
then the
that,
bell
I
rings.
mean, yeah, that is the old saying that would go with those wrestlers that had the look, had the charisma, had everything, and then there's something missing once that bell rings. We are going to talk about those individuals who we think that epitomizes in our main event later tonight. But before that, Doug, we have a different bell to ring.
Oh, let's do it.
That is our opening bell. We've not done news in a while, so let's talk a little news before we get to our main event. And we'll start with a bit of a bombshell that is worth keeping an eye on. It was revealed this week that very quietly HBO Max has reportedly lost exclusivity to AEW. Have you heard that?
I have not heard this.
So we all thought that, AEW, they recently signed a rights deal that keeps them on TBS, TNT, has them now streaming on HBO Max. We assumed that just meant it was a strengthening of that relationship. And it is, but the exclusivity part of that is no longer effective. And actually, it is a bit of a good thing, in fact, that AEW's arrangement with Warner Brothers Discovery is no longer exclusive, as that means Tony Khan is free to pursue other broadcast partners, other new streaming deals if he would like. And the reason that this is important, and this is where it gets a little convoluted, but follow this. There is a major reshuffling happening at Warner Brothers Discovery. There have been multiple reports of both Netflix and Paramount looking to swoop in and absorb Warner Brothers Discovery and its assets. So, if Warner Brothers, for example, owned AEW or had a stake in AEW, which they do not, AEW's fate would then be tied to the fate of Warner Brothers Discovery. Also, if this was an exclusive deal and say, Netflix comes in and is the new corporate daddy, who do you think Netflix would be loyal to when it came to their live weekly television show? Not Tony Khan, but their partners over at TKO. So again, in that hypothetical, AEW would just cease to exist. So the fact that Tony Khan will be free to take AEW elsewhere if the need arises to go elsewhere is actually a very good bit of flexibility for the company in what is otherwise a kind of an uncertain media environment right now. So yeah, this is one that's going to be worth watching. This could end up being a nothing, or it could be ending up being a really, really important escape clause should Warner Brothers Discovery fold or, end up. I mean, Paramount, probably things would continue as normal. Netflix takes over. AEW would be out the door. So we'll keep an eye on it and let you know more as this develops. Ash by Elegance appeared on TNA's Victory Road pay-per-view on Friday night and relinquished her Knockouts title. The former Dana Brooke gave a very emotional speech alluding to her being unable to wrestle anymore. And by anymore, she wasn't really specific if that is short-term anymore or forever anymore. Later on, there was a pay-per-view match to determine a new Knockouts champ because she had to obviously relinquish the title. NXT's Kalani Jordan walked away as the latest WWE star who is now holding TNA gold. But as for Ash herself, it really does seem like a very sad, serious situation. There are rumors even that this is an actual retirement, and we don't want to pile on by saying that is the case. But just the uncertainty of a timeline and the way that she handled it did not sound good. So hopefully we will get to see her on our screens again, and if we find out more, we will report that.
So sad.
Injury news is always sad, and I hate to say that this next story is more of the same. Have you heard that Piper Niven may be facing career-threatening injuries?
No.
she may be having career-threatening concerns as well. The former WWE Women's Tag Champ has been pulled from TV, with the storyline being she's on a secret mission for Chelsea Green, but the real reason is an undisclosed injury. It's a great, the secret Hervis is actually very entertaining, and it's just unfortunate that with that being featured more regularly, that Piper Niven is going to be out for an undisclosed amount of time. Again, they haven't disclosed the injury, but there is rumor backstage that people are worried that whatever is going on is a career-threatening situation. So just like with Ash, best of luck to Piper, and our well wishes for a recovery and a return to the ring. We don't want to see these talented women lose their careers. It's not the way you want to see someone go out. One thing we have talked about, have yet to talk about, Doug, where we haven't been live in a couple of weeks, is that since we last had a live show, it was announced that WWE is taking WrestleMania overseas in 2027. Yeah, we'd reported on it previously about this a possibility, but now it is a fact, and that is that TKO is bringing its biggest annual spectacle to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. It's the first time Mania will take place outside of North America. Doug, this is obviously a controversial choice, even if we saw it coming as an inevitability at some point in time. 2027 WrestleMania, Riyadh, what do you think?
It's not cool, man. It's just not cool. And I had heard that they were like, "Yeah, we'll give you your own WrestleMania, and we're still gonna do WrestleMania. We'll make it a special side." And they were like, "Yeah, no, we want WrestleMania. We don't want a Saudi WrestleMania. We want WrestleMania."
The WrestleMania.
The WrestleMania, which is, I guess, why they're trying to make WrestlePalooza into something much larger. And boy, that worked out well.
Yeah. Well, it started with the dumb name.
Yeah.
And as for WrestleMania, I mean, not that there's anything against Saudi Arabia as far as the people or even the location. It is the circumstances and the controversy that has always surrounded the arrangement that WWE has with the Saudi government. And let's face it, WrestleMania is a destination event for people around the world. Wrestling fans come from all over. This will greatly be impacted, that I can't imagine an international audience will be able to travel so freely and easily as they have in prior years to attend WrestleMania in Saudi. Just even that aspect of it doesn't make sense.
It may be easier for international fans to get into Saudi than it would be for them to get into the U.S. in 2027, Kevin.
That's a whole other show.
Yeah. That's a whole other channel is what that is.
Yeah. So again, this is something we will keep an eye on, but it is a definite that it is. Well, I shouldn't say it's definite. It's not unlike WWE to announce a WrestleMania and then not deliver on that promise. So who knows? It's a likelihood, maybe we should say. 2027. Looking ahead, but not all the way to 2027, we now are looking to 2026 in this next story, and that is the retirement of the great AJ Styles. Not long after we say goodbye to John Cena, one of his greatest rivals is also going to be hanging up, the former WWE champion. Talks of retirement, and it's obviously, he's mentioned it before. He's been saying for years he's wanted to retire before the age of 50. Well, AJ is now 48, and he confirmed in an interview with Tokyo Sports that he will retire within the next year. He further indicated he would like to work backstage with WWE once his in-ring days are through. But, yep, we're on AJ Styles' retirement watch. It sounds like that is coming sooner rather than later. It'll be sad to see him go, but I respect the fact that he wants to go out while he still can perform at the high level that he does. So yeah, best of luck to AJ, and we will report that. We will report who his last opponent and the last date will be when we know it. One thing that we didn't report on because it happened while we were off that I do want to not let pass by, someone who is gone and is not getting the retirement treatment. It was not a mutual decision, and that is Andrade is gone from WWE. WWE very quickly kicked the former Mr. Charlotte Flair to the curb for reasons that are still somewhat mysterious. Reports are it was a disciplinary issue, but there's yet to be a clear answer as to exactly what those issues may have been. What we do know for sure is that he is gone, and this is the second time he has been let go by WWE. The second stint lasted a year and a half. Not exactly the return he probably would have wanted. Certainly not the way he wanted to go out, whatever the reasons might be.
Oh, Andrade.
Oh, Andrade. Where does he go back to Tony for a second time? So if he tried
I don't
WWE
know.
for a second time,
So I want to right side this one and say maybe this means we can get Lucha Bros together instead of having Ray Phoenix team with random luchador number 7. Let's put him with Penta and get a Lucha Bros run in WWE.
Definitely the path to that is a little clearer now. While on the topic of wrestlers no longer with WWE, Jasmine Nix is gone from the Fatal Influence faction and from NXT. Nix went public this past week that she was not renewing her WWE contract. They wrote her off in a really kind of bizarre injury angle on Tuesday night. She was public, though, about the fact that she did receive a contract, but that financially it just wasn't going to be suffice, and that she had other projects and opportunities that she couldn't explore under the WWE banner. And I can assume that these opportunities must maybe, pay more for the way that she
I hope so, yeah.
worded things. Nix, if you don't know her backstory, it's interesting. She came to WWE from the world of soccer. She had been a player at the collegiate level at WVU. She was at West Virginia University. And then she went pro as a forward for the Icelandic soccer club. And then somehow
connections all over the place.
I know, right? And then ended up back in as a pro wrestler. And she had a good look. She never really got time in the ring. But who knows? It seems like her wrestling days may be behind her. This next story isn't a pleasant one, but we do need to report on it. And that is former TNA Knockouts World Champion Masha Slamovich. Have you heard this one, Doug?
I've seen the headlines. I've not delved into it because I don't want to tarnish how much I love that name. It's just a great name for a wrestler.
And she's great in the ring, but she has been accused of domestic violence by her former partner and MLW star, Akira. The allegations became public when Akira's friend shared screenshots of some just pretty brutal conversations between Slamovich and Akira. Slamovich went into defense mode, obviously posting that, yes, there had been abuse, that she had been involved in a mutually toxic relationship with her former partner without mentioning Akira by name, said that they both made mistakes and they both did the abusing. For his part, Akira has now also had to sort of go public with this, saying that he nearly committed suicide on 3 occasions due to the turmoil of the alleged abuse. I told you this one's a heavy story. And Akira is a deathmatch kind of style wrestler. And so that has drawn the evils of the internet, obviously, in the comments of like, but he likes this kind of thing, that kind of nonsense. Just an ugly situation all the way around.
I'm going just the opposite. How bad is your relationship that it's like, worse than your death matches at work?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
the dude gets like stuff stapled to his forehead and falls into light tubes. And again, these are allegations, but they are allegations that Masha has semi-owned up to being fact. So there's something there. And for its part, TNA has said they take this all very seriously and are currently investigating. So we have a lot of stories here that we're promising follow-up on. Obviously, this is one as well. With the relationship TNA has with WWE, I know they probably do not want any unnecessary negative attention that might upset that apple cart.
Right. They don't want a Knox Pro Wrestling situation where everything's just cut off. Oh, Raja, did you see this? Raja was actually going to be arrested. I'm not sure for what, but
no.
Yes, I guess LAPD had finally decided, okay, we have enough to arrest this kid now. And I haven't heard anything about it after that.
So maybe not arrested yet, but maybe a warrant out for his arrest.
Yeah,
so again,
I'm not
a lot of stuff to follow up on that aren't necessarily wrestling
Yeah.
specific stories, but involving wrestlers that unfortunately just some really bad news. So what do you say? Let's end
Mhm.
on some good news.
Yes, please. Bring us home,
Congratulations
Kevin.
to WWE superstar Drew McIntyre for a huge opportunity.
Huge.
Drew is being cast as a character in the remake of Highlander, an Amazon MGM Studios United Artists film with some huge stars attached. McIntyre will play the brother of the lead character, who
Mhm.
will portrayed by Superman. So
Yes. Yes. This is
yeah,
a
Henry
big deal,
Cavill,
man.
big deal, man. You got Russell Crowe. You got a little guy named Dave Batista. I think that name's kind
Batista?
of
Yeah.
familiar.
Yeah.
They'll be a tag team. Again, just a big opportunity for Drew McIntyre. Obviously, he looks the part of starring in the movie Highlander, so you can't get.
Right. I mean,
I mean,
kind of,
on
it
the
does kind of
nose,
write
man.
itself.
And he looks like
Yeah.
a action figure, so he is exactly who
Mhm.
you want. The thing is, can he act? Obviously, with these folks attached, you would not cast him if they weren't confident that
Right.
he is going to do the job. But I'm looking forward to this. That's a really big opportunity.
I'm just hoping he's not like, Connor or Duncan McLeod's brother that gets killed like within the first 5 minutes of the movie. That's what I'm hoping doesn't happen. You
That's
know,
true. Just
but
because you're the lead's brother doesn't mean. I mean, MJF was a brother in a fake brother in Iron
son,
Claw.
there's a fake brother in Iron Claw and a son in Happy Gilmore too. With
That doesn't necessarily mean
some,
it's a big role,
yeah,
but still a big opportunity. And congrats
absolutely.
to the Scottish Superman there. Can't wait to see it. And with
Yep.
that,
Oh,
something else I can't wait to do, and that is talk about Then the Bell Rings.
indeed.
Those characters, those wrestlers, those that had everything going for them, and then the bell rings
Yeah.
and the mystique gets lost a little bit. So before we even venture into who these are, there's so many examples of this, and it's going to depend on your personal
There really
taste.
are.
There might be
Yeah.
there's somebody who is probably your favorite wrestler that we may even name tonight. This doesn't mean that they're bad wrestlers. They're very good at what they do. It just means that the in-ring work is not up to the rest of the package. And to be fair, we decided to break this up into two categories: the historic list of
Mhm.
wrestlers that then the bell rings, and then the modern age, people who are wrestling currently. And the reason that I thought this would be good is that, let's be honest, historically speaking, it was way less important to be a good wrestler than
Mhm.
it is today. We did not really care. People did not talk work rate. There was no 5-star matches in the 60s and 70s. So
Mm-mm.
we could have numerous examples of some of the biggest stars in the sport. Go back and watch like an old Bruno Sammartino match. And it just was a different time. So, that's not a slag on Sammartino. It just means, he's not commander. He's not, not walking the top ropes and flipping and flopping. And it's just, again, probably more fair to group these historically and then in the modern age, just to be a little bit apples to apples. So, Doug,
Yeah.
historically, I'm going to kick it off. I think some of these are going to be obvious that a lot of people would pick. And then I wanted to make sure that we had some in here that might be some hot takes, because we want some, we want some juice here where we go, we'll not just go for the low hanging fruit. So this first one is probably going to be somebody that is someone's favorite wrestler as a kid, but hey, I'm putting it out there. Ultimate Warrior is Ultimate Warrior is a historic example of a guy who had the look, had the charisma, had some insanity that, kind of worked for him. As soon as he went on the mic, he made zero sense, but it worked in the context of the 1980s. Doug, do you think that the Ultimate Warrior that would even work today?
I don't think so, and it's hilarious because we talked earlier today via text about how many of these were going to cross over, and Warrior,
Ah,
of course, is also on my list because got that physique, that high impact explosiveness, energy, and then his short and sloppy matches, and I mean, it was one of those things that relied on presence instead of skill, But no, I don't think well. Actually, I think if Heyman were managing Warrior, yes, Heyman can get any of these folks we're going to talk about. You take them to a different level with Heyman involved, but
oh,
it would be
Warrior was
rough
on
to.
your list too.
Yeah, it'd be rough to get Warrior over in today's day and age. But back in the day, yeah, just
Back in the day, he was a lot of kids' favorite wrestler. I mean, he was
oh
main
yeah,
eventing WrestleMania. He actually got the crowd going over Hogan. Like the
hmm
fans chose him over the most popular wrestler of that generation. But I don't know. Did you like Warrior as a kid? We look at
no,
wrestlers differently
uh,
when we're young. No, I didn't like him
we
even
do, but
either.
I think we were old marks even when we were like 10. You know, I think we were.
It's true, true. Doug and I did not compare notes beforehand, but we
Mm-mm.
also knew there was a very good chance that some of these would be picks that are so obvious or that so classic examples of then the bell rings and the mystique is gone, and we knew we'd have some in common. Warrior is one of those.
Yeah.
Well, I took one of yours, Doug. Let's see if you take one of mine. Go give me somebody else in the historic
So
realm. Let's see if they're on
let's
my
stay in the
list.
historic realm, and let me just go ahead and get this one out of the way because I'm willing to wager he's on your list too. But let's just talk about the biggest wrestling icon there is in any era, and
Doug,
how
are you about to talk ill of the recently deceased?
I'm not going to talk ill. I'm just going to state my opinion on the Hulkster because I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, he comes across. I mean, he is the superstar Billy Graham clone. To as much as Vince could get him to be that clone, the man thrived on charisma. Although I will say, watching his New Japan matches when he was wrestling in Japan, you see a lot more Hogan than you will ever see. Where you actually stop and go, wait a minute, dude, maybe could go. But as far as an American audience ever really got to see, he had the look, he had the charisma, he was the superstar Billy Graham replacement down to like the Fu Manchu and everything. But get him in the ring, that bell rings, and it's just what did he even have 5 moves of doom?
No. And
I
I'm
mean,
glad you said that because that is an important distinction again as to why we broke it up between historic and modern. Because yes, people can slag someone like a John Cena, but by today's standards, they're slagging John Cena. By Hulk Hogan standards, John Cena was, Dean Malenko. I mean, seriously,
yeah.
Cena sometimes doesn't get the credit he deserves for being able
hmm
to have a good match with the right opponent. Someone like a Hulk Hogan, you knew you were going to get a beat down, a Hulk up, a
hmm
pointing of a finger, a ripping of a shirt, a couple of punches, a body slam, a leg drop, and that pretty much is the extent of the entire repertoire. Cena could work a
Yeah.
20-minute match if need be. Most of these
Yeah.
guys in the historic realm could absolutely not do that. So there is definitely a different bar between today, what we accept, and what we bought back then. Hulk Hogan is
Yes.
absolutely on my list, and I think you probably knew that was going to be the case too, because he is probably the
Yeah.
classic example of someone who, you know what, he didn't need to work. I mean,
No,
truly,
he
it did
didn't.
not matter. Yeah, the bell rang, and it was all good for Hulk Hogan, regardless of
hmm
the quality of the in ring work. It didn't
Yeah.
matter really, especially in that day and time. Doug, I'm going to go with someone who's kind of in my mind, sort of the ultimate warrior of the other organization of
Okay.
that era and that WCW, and Lex Luger. I know he had some time in WWE, but the total package.
hmm
When I think of my memories of Lex Luger, he was in the Horsemen, but did not deserve to
hmm
be in the Horsemen in my mind as a kid. I knew
No.
he had the muscles, the whole narcissist gimmick when he went to WWE, the holding of the mirror, all that was fantastic. Then the bell rang, and
hmm
that was just a big muscle guy who didn't know, as they say, a wrist lock from a wristwatch. And what are you going to do? You talk about somebody who did a little with a lot, just like everyone else we named on this list. These are not, again, just guys that washed out of the business because they weren't any good. These are stars we're talking about. And Lex Luger had a long career, and he, actually everybody we've named so far are Hall of Famers.
Yeah, and Lex is on my list too. Total package. I have a question mark after total package. Because I made notes like bodybuilder look, superstar presence, and then stiff and repetitive in the ring, often carried by his opponents.
Yeah,
looked like money, wrestled like cardboard.
I could not put it any better, and it's hilarious that all three thus far have been some, on each of our lists. So definitely we are of the same mindset looking back at our childhoods and those wrestlers that can't wrestle. Doug, do you have somebody that maybe, let's see if we can get one or two that aren't on each other's lists. I have two more left on my historic list.
Okay, the last one on my historic list I consider more late historic than modern day, so I group him in the historic. But I'm going to go with this one, and this maybe it's controversial. I don't know, just my opinion, throwing it out there. But let's talk about Mr. 6'9", jacked and psychotic, with an extremely limited power set. Sid Vicious. Maybe this is controversial, but everybody could dig Sid. Even the ECW fans who demanded this higher work rate back in the day, or well, even today, people are still chanting ECW. Sid got over just by being Sid, but it just wasn't there. He had his power moves. I'm not going to say he looked like money and wrestled like cardboard, but the biggest thing I think I remember about poor Sid was that jump. Was it off the second rope where he just snapped his shin?
Yeah.
Anyone and just showed it over and over on.
I think it wasn't like his leg turned to the wrong direction in the boots, and you could see.
See the bone sticking out of it. Yeah. That's
I think of that, and I think of him getting him stabbing Arn Anderson with a pair of scissors.
Wasn't it John Stossel? He also roughed up when he said wrestling wasn't real or something like that.
That was David Schultz.
Okay,
that was Dr. D. David Schultz.
All right, see, mix him up.
Yeah,
so.
Big muscle guy, you kind of mess up.
Yeah.
Actually, if there is a common denominator with everyone we've named thus far, they were more bodybuilders than they were wrestlers, which is another thing I think probably worth pointing out, in that the difference between what we see in the modern list that we'll get to here in a moment and this historic list is because back then that is how you got sometimes into wrestling. If you didn't have a wrestling background, you just looked like $1 million, and they went with these, it was the steroids era, it was the bigger is better era, and a lot of these guys just were big muscle men who either were too inflexible, which was part of the problem with Sid, or enhancing themselves to be this style. This next one for me, Doug, actually breaks the mold of those guys, and is probably the first person on my list that I actually liked as a kid.
Okay.
But it was probably because I was a kid, and that is another Hall of Famer, and that's the Junkyard Dog.
I knew you were going to say Junkyard Dog.
Did you really? Man.
When you said he was a favorite of yours, but he was on
I liked him.
I'm thinking Junkyard Dog.
I liked
JYD.
him. And he was so charismatic that he floated, like Mid-South was the territory back in the day of the NWA because of what Bill Watts was able to do with Junkyard Dog and Junkyard Dog's charisma. Junkyard Dog did not know how to wrestle, but he had that charisma, so it did not really matter. You could present him in a way that the fans still bought into. I did think it'd be harder for someone like Junkyard Dog in today's modern. By the time he made it to WWE, I mean, it was the dance, it was the chain around the neck, but it was pretty much headbutt and then get down on the ground and then run into him with his head and the dog stuff, and had a decent looking power slam, and that was it. That was the whole package, and that's
Mhm.
all it needed to be because the man was charismatic, and I still like Junkyard Dog. Work rate is not everything, but it definitely was one of
Yeah.
those situations that Junkyard Dog was way more entertaining to me as a kid to hear him do an interview, to hear him, do his
Mhm.
jive talking, and
That's
it's just
fair.
smacked.
Yep.
And then his matches, no, not memorable, not so much.
Hmm. That is cool. So we have some deviation with Sid and Junkyard. So
Sid and Junkyard.
my last one on this list, because I pulled four from the historical category and four from
I
more
got one
modern
left
day.
too, and I would be
All right, cool.
surprised. I would be surprised if they're not the same. So go ahead.
Like I say, this is '90s wrestler, slightly into the 2000s, and more recently with Gunther. But how could Bill Goldberg not be on this
Yeah.
list somewhere?
How can he not?
Regardless
How
of
can he not?
regardless of where you want to count, if you're thinking, wow, he's still active, he just wrestled. Okay, well, let's put him on the current list. But for me, he's going on a historical list. Bischoff and the folks in WCW did an excellent job because I was such a Goldberg mark when he first started in WCW, and I was just blew me away. That streak. He would go out there and destroy people within minutes. Well, we later learned why he destroyed people within minutes because if it was anything over three, the cracks started to show. And I don't think that's really ever recovered there from. I just noticed what shirt you have on. That's cool.
I didn't mean to distract you.
Oh, that's okay. I just realized the shirt. Okay, but anyway, yeah, Goldberg. Goldberg. I mean, he has the look. Charisma, not so much, but he didn't need to say much, but other than who's next, and it got him over. But once you got out of all those squash matches and put him into something that lasted more than a couple of minutes, it just got ugly real
He's
quick.
the last. He's the last pick on my historic list too, and I had a feeling that we'd have a lot of historic ones in common, just because these are very obvious examples from the history of wrestling, and they all are Hall of Famers. Everyone we name is a Hall of Famer, and all had careers that were
Yeah.
very, lengthy and memorable, and people still think about them when they talk about their childhoods, or still have the action figures or what have you. Goldberg, I want to just echo what you said. Like, the how could you have a list like this and he not be on it? He is the perfect example of Then the Bell Rings. But there's a reason we don't think of any of Goldberg's matches. But what do you think of when you hear Goldberg? Very first thing, the streak. That's a great story. The streak was a true wrestling phenomenon, and it's a story that still gets thought of. It didn't matter that the matches that comprised that streak were nothings, and all we needed to know is that entrance was, absolutely awesome. The kicking down on the door and the security and the breathing of the smoke, all of that was what you remember. And then the moves he had were impactful and impressive. That jackhammer looked great. It was
the spear into a jackhammer, and he just held them up for so long before he dropped them. It was great stuff.
He did what he needed to do to make his mark. But yes, the bell rang. If it didn't ring a second time within 5 minutes, Goldberg was blown up, and it looked pretty bad.
Pretty bad.
I do think, Doug, though, that here in our modern list, we may have more deviation because
there may be.
It's a different set of criteria almost when you look at the easy examples of Hulk Hogan, Goldberg, like some of the biggest stars ever. And then you look at today, it's so much harder to make it today without some amount of wrestling ability. And not saying that all these individuals that we're going to name don't have wrestling ability, but there is something uninspiring about them when the bell rings. I think it's harder to note what that something is on our modern list. In our historic list, it's obvious. Goldberg couldn't wrestle. Ultimate Warrior couldn't wrestle. Hulk Hogan couldn't wrestle. Some of these other guys that we're about to get into, in my mind, they can wrestle, but they're just ho-hum. And I want to like them, and then just don't for some reason.
Yeah, I think
Doug,
that's definitely one guy on my list. Definitely, actually, everybody on the list can go to some degree because they're in the business. But
yeah, in the modern
uh,
area of the business when it
yeah,
means something to work some. Yeah. Give me
and
a
if these
name.
folks were in the, let's start with the Miz then. Okay, I mean, I think the Miz is an incredibly charismatic guy. He's clearly a company man. He's got a great look. He really does. And then I'm not going to say Miz is bad in the ring, but I got a note here about even Miz says that he's mediocre at best. Tons of safe moves, safe spots. There's a reason why he's never been hurt. I think back to that whole work shoot thing that he and Daniel Bryan did on that SmackDown after show where they get into it and he's yelling at Bryan's yelling at him like you're afraid to be hit and all this stuff and yeah, there's a
Yeah.
reason he's never been hurt. I mean, he works smart, sure, but and he's been a world champion. What 2 time? WWE champion. I
And
think is
he's
it
had
twice?
memorable story like the one with Daniel
He's
Bryan is
had
a good example. The Cena stuff he's really good on the mic. He's a really good
yes,
antagonist. He's really
yes,
good at a lot of aspects of the game, and he's not a bad wrestler. But you're right, he is kind of a bland wrestler. He's not going to be anyone's favorite in-ring worker. That is
right.
not the first attribute that you think of when you think of what qualities the Miz brings to the table in pro wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's a good one. Not on my list.
All right.
I had a harder time with this trying to be fair and make sure I get a few
Yeah.
from both companies because as it
Same.
turns out, Tony Khan, that is
Yeah.
such a wrestling mark that I did find it more difficult to come up with AEW wrestlers because even the wrestlers I'm not that crazy about tend to be able to work really well in an
Yes.
AEW ring. WWE has more of a history of character over work rate, so it was easier for me there. So I'm going to give you, though, my first one here is an AEW wrestler,
All
and
right.
it's Gabe Kidd. And I don't know what it is
Oh,
about Gabe
okay.
Kidd, but I just find him boring. And I apologize to any Gabe
That's fair.
kids out there and to Gabe himself. I feel like AEW is trying to present him as a big deal, as a bulldog type,
Yep.
enforcer kind of character coming from his work in New Japan and things. And he's not bad, but I don't even feel like he even has anything on the charisma side. I could go for the silent enforcer type that just looks like a menacing, like guy you wouldn't want to mess with because he does look like that. But then the in-ring stuff doesn't support that to me and just isn't working for me. And that's one of my AEW representatives trying to find somebody there.
Right.
It is just kind of there for me when the bell rings.
You know what? I'm trying to think of something stand out for Gabe Kidd. I almost called him Abe Kidd. So, but yeah, I really can't think of any standout matches or anything super exciting that he's been involved with.
No.
Okay, that's fair. That is fair.
And I can't imagine. And if you're a huge Gabe Kidd fan and have absorbed his work in overseas and want to show me why I'm wrong and direct me to a match, please disagree with us on this because I think at least the rest of my choices here are going to probably be a little more controversial because I know these are people that have some fans and I am fans of some of these people, but had to put them on my list. You want me to give you one now since you went first to this last one?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Because this one I think is a little bit of a hot take because I wanted to like this guy. I do like this guy, and I wanted it to work out for him so bad, and it never did. And if I'm honest with myself, even though I consider myself a fan, the reason would be is that, again, using a different bar than a Ultimate Warrior, but using the modern example of there's just not much about this guy's in-ring ability that stands out once the bell rings. That's Karrion Kross. And I loved Karrion Kross. I loved his look. I loved his entrance. I loved his promos. I loved the relationship he had with Scarlett. I thought the whole presentation worked. But if I'm honest with myself, when the bell would ring, the matches never seemed to get out of second gear. And I know he has a huge swell of internet wrestling fan support, and I'm still a Karrion Kross fan. He's one of those guys that maybe is going to just work for me, regardless of the fact that his matches don't always go past that 2-star effort. But Karrion Kross just isn't an exciting wrestler, and I have to just admit that to myself. And I still will say I'm a fan.
That is cool. I have somebody on my list like Karrion Kross,
Like
which I'm pretty sure is going to be incredibly controversial. So I'm saving him for last. But
okay.
yeah. All right, Karrion Kross. I guess I've never really thought. I now that you say it though, more of Karrion Kross's out of ring work is what comes to mind more than his
Yeah.
in ring work. So I see the call. I understand it. I too am a fan though.
Yeah. Still
So
love you,
I
Karrion. Don't
yeah,
hurt us.
absolutely. I prefer the big bald killer Cross, instead of
Yeah.
Karrion, but TikTok. So
TikTok.
let me go with an AEW pick here, since I want to be fair to Tony. And this guy, I almost applied the historical like boxes to this guy. He's got the look, he's got just this monstrous physique, good looking guy, big dude, monstrous build. I think with the right manager, he could come across. He's got the charisma in the ring. He's just got the aura about him that says money. But then when you turn Wardlow loose in the ring, I don't know what happens, but it's not good. It's not bad. It's not bad. I shouldn't say it's not good. It's not
And he
as
did get
exciting
better.
as
It used to be
yes.
really bad. It actually was bad. He did get less green and got better, but I can buy into what you're saying. There is, at this point, he should be had developed into something more than what he
He
has.
should totally be something more than what he is. And maybe his stop pushes or whatever Tony's done with him in AEW hasn't helped. And has he been out for an injury or something? Because it seems like he falls off
Yeah.
TV. But that does happen to a lot of AEW wrestlers. They just kind of they just kind of fall away for a while and then they show back up. But
I think he's ready to return. If I read something recently,
did he return? He is back, right?
That is bad that we don't know for certain.
That's not great. That is bad. I mean,
that's not great.
You've been traveling, and I've had a lot of work and like family things going on recently to knock us both out of like keeping incredibly up on wrestling lately. But I think he's back, maybe coming back. But yeah, you're right. That speaks volumes of it right there.
I got what I think might be a hot take for a lot of people, because I am, again, having just to be honest with myself, because I want to like this group. It is a group.
Oh, a group. Okay.
It is an entire group of individuals who individually I like. The continuity of the storyline I like. The entrance is absolutely amazing. The angles that they use to introduce them are also cutting edge and just must see TV. And then the bell rings and the Wyatt Six are just, they lose the aura they have as soon as the bell rings. And part of it is painting yourself, I think, a little bit into a corner. And even Bray himself, I think, had this problem with the Funhouse, and all that stuff was so memorable that it was hard once the match started to have the in-ring work, all of the incredible character work that he did. Now, Bray, I would argue, did enough to pull that off. The Wyatt Six thus far have not. And again, I know there was going to be people that disagree with me, and that is fine, because I want to like them, and I do pop as soon as that music hits and I see them, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. And then, they sit in the chair, and whoever's in the ring's in the ring, and these are decent workers, but it just falls flat as soon as the match starts. And again, it might be to have that supernatural kind of character in a pro wrestling environment that makes it difficult. But the Wyatt Six just are a classic modern example of the aura disappearing as soon as the match has to start.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that definitely. Six aren't on my list, but I can see that argument too. Because just like with Wardlow, I'm not sure what the six are they the tag team champions now? I don't.
They are.
Are
They are
they?
current. Yeah, they
Okay.
are the current tag
Yeah.
champs.
See, I'm struggling with wrestling right now, and these folks were mentioning. So
And we've
let
yet
me.
to have a crossover on our modern list. So let's see if we go
This is true.
completely separate on modern.
I think if we have a crossover, this next one of mine may be it. I think this is where we both might check a box because she's the only female on my list.
Yep, I think we are about
She
to
has
check a box.
she has an amazing look. Uh, Fortunate enough to see her live before she jumped from AEW to WWE, and the lady has 0% body fat. She looks like a superhero. She looks like Storm from the X-Men. You know, Storm is coming, and then she gets in the ring.
Yep.
And she's gotten better. She has gotten better from her first match in AEW with what was it with Shaq and Cody, and something going on there. I don't even remember
Yeah,
all
Big
that, but
Show and
yeah, but so much better, but still, it's just not there for me. You know, that look, my God, that look is amazing. It is such a great look, and I think it totally sells it for me because she does look like Storm. But you know,
that is our
it
first
just
crossover. It is our first crossover on the modern list because I wanted to try to balance and pick a female.
yeah.
And to me, she is the obvious example of, and then the bell rings because she obviously was hired because of her look. And that is not a
Hmm.
slag because a lot
No,
of wrestlers, male and female, get hired because they have the right look and then they pick up the business.
right.
She has gotten better. You are correct. She has, though, not gotten as good as I would have expected her to have gotten by this point. Like if she was still like in her early days of AEW, I would say, hey, this lady's green. It's in fairness to her, she's learning on the job. At this point, though, she's been in the business long enough that I would expect her to have gotten a little better than she has. So she may be topping out her ceiling as
Hmm.
to how much of this business she can really pick up as far as the in-ring work goes. But the presentation, you can work around not being a good worker. It just may
Hmm.
limit how far she could actually rise in this business because today we do have more work rate, focus than we used to. I probably should have, in fairness to the male female breakdown, put a female historic within the
Yeah.
bell ring. But I mean, probably the most famous women's wrestler of all time, the fabulous Moolah. You ever go back and watch a Moolah match? It's not going to exactly captivate you
Hmm.
in exciting in-ring moves. So it's certainly not a just male only issue. And Jade is a current example of a female that has absolutely everything except the bell ring.
Hmm.
Maybe tag teaming. Maybe she and Bianca. I
Yeah,
thought the tag team situation worked well for her just because it could
absolutely.
hide some of her deficiencies. Um,
Hmm.
so we've
And
had
working
one
with Bianca,
crossover. Oh yeah, working with Bianca, and Bianca can
yeah.
go. I have one left, Doug, and I saved one last too because I think this one might be one that is a little more. Once I say it because I like this person, and I wanted to continue to think that this person was going to get better. So, hear me out. This is an AEW guy.
Okay.
I love the pedigree. I love the look. It almost was a Bill Goldberg situation where the booking is so awesome in that the aura was presented around this particular individual of, oh man, this is the next bad guy. You do not want to mess with this guy. You cannot beat this guy. He has everything. The Post Malone entrance, all of it. The suplexes are there, but if he has to wrestle more than 2 or 3 minutes and do his dad's moves, I have to say that at this point, I expected Hook to have picked up a little more. And I'm afraid. And this is someone who I think I picked as my rookie of the year in our annual award show. That's how
Hmm.
high I was on what he was doing. But what they were doing was the Bill Goldberg thing. We're going to have him come out and destroy a guy in 30 seconds. And it was
Hmm.
awesome. But at a certain point, you have to wrestle more than the 30 seconds, and you realize that he is still learning on the job, and it's
Yeah.
not quite there yet. So sorry, Hook fans, of which I am one, but I wanted at least one controversial pick. I think I might have a couple, but Hook is just not exciting in ring for me.
Man, I do really like Hook. I can see your point, but I can say this, Hook is still young. Hook can always get better. Maybe he
I
should be
hope
like
so.
maybe he should be a lot better than he is because you look at a talent like Dom, and there's the pedigree
Oh
there
yeah,
too. And
he
Dom
picked it up.
is,
He's been. I
I
mean, look
mean,
back a year and look how much he's
yes,
improved. Yeah.
yes. But so I still have two on my list somehow,
Oh,
um,
go for it.
but I have another AEW, and then I have I think what's probably going to be my controversial pick of a super popular star. But that's kind of what this is about, right?
Yeah.
So for my next AEW pick, you know, the guy works much better in tag teams, but being 7 foot tall and you not being able to teach that, yeah, when Big Bill came to AEW, you know, we have seen Big Bill as cast, work solo before, and he's good on the mic. He's not his tag team partner Enzo or whatever he goes by these days. I think Big Bill, whatever you want to call him, was really best during that era before that all just went completely sideways, and both he and Enzo had their own major issues that they needed to deal with. But Big Bill being back in AEW, sober, healthy, ready for a second run. He's got the look, definitely got the size. Give him a mic, he's going to do okay, but then the bell rings, and there you go. He's it's almost like that classic big man syndrome. He's just got a couple of things he can do and knock off, and there's so many big boots before you're like, God, come on, I want to see some flippy floppy high flying stuff now. But that's
Yeah.
just me with Big
No,
Bill
it's not
there.
just you. I think that it's also kind of an endemic issue with a lot of our picks in that it is skewed towards big, tall, or muscular wrestlers because it is just harder for them to do anything more than like, wow, look at. I mean, we didn't have Andre the Giant on this list, but I
Right.
mean, you could
Well, that's
fairly
true.
put, and he's one of the biggest attractions of all time. It is hard for the big men because historically, wrestling promoters would hire almost like I hate to use the term freak show, but I come see
Yeah.
the 7 foot giant. Like they build these people as giants, so because these are people you wouldn't normally see in normal life.
Right.
We did not necessarily expect them to be able to wrestle, and a lot of these guys, because of their size, it's difficult for them to do more the big boot, power slams, punches.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree with you. Big Bill and Cass are good characters, but that's about it.
Yeah. So my last one, Kevin.
I've been waiting for this.
Maybe,
I want to hear your controversial.
yeah. This one maybe. I mean, I've got notes, catchphrase, charisma, crowd connection. It's all through the roof, right? Bell rings. It's pretty much always a simple, safe, which is great. Simple, safe, keywords here, safe match, but nothing really exciting, nothing that really pops me. I pop on his entrance, I pop on his Yaz, when he's doing his LA Knight, the crowd is there, the charisma is there. He's got a great look. He's done so much to get himself over when he's been given these crap gimmicks. He's turned them around and just brought things right back to where his place is now. But in ring, it's just not there. It's not bad. It's just not exciting. It's not that he needs to be flippy floppy high flying, but LA Knight's my last one, Kevin.
I mean, I thought Hook was going to be a controversial pick, but going LA Knight is you outdid me on that one. But I will tell you that I can see your point. I mean, the charisma is off the chart. His mic work is great. I do like the jump up move that he does from the second rope to the top rope, then to hit the elbow drop. But outside of that, I don't think he's bad, but he is not there is something that isn't exciting about his in-ring work, and he has obviously not risen to where he has based on solely his in-ring work.
Right. Absolutely.
So I will say that kudos to you for making a brave choice on that one. And I'm sure there will be a lot of folks watching this that'll disagree, which is fine. Let us know.
That's okay. I'd
picks.
love to hear other folks, top folks from the historical era and the modern day. Love to hear it. Let us know in the comments.
Give us your if you think Will Ospreay is overrated and it's just not exciting in the ring, put it in the comments.
You're wrong, Fletcher. You're right. You have every right to be wrong. I mean, it's a free country.
It is free country. Well, for now. That was a fun conversation, though. We could give a lot of examples. It was fun to try to think of who this is. There's some folks that would be easy to pick on, but I am glad that we picked some folks that are actually pretty popular to show that you don't always have to have the complete package to be a success in this industry. And I think we got a good mix of wrestlers there from the companies to get people talking and let us know what you think. Big finish time, though, Doug. Let's talk our 1, 2, 3, starting with our botch of the week. And I will say for me, it was the ending to the women's triple threat match on SmackDown.
Yes, sir. It was absolutely.
YouTube.
Did Nia fall asleep? I mean, what happened there? It's just like she's like, oh, whoops, forgot to kick out. And what happened to when the ref is supposed to call it like it is? And if that's the botch, this is the finish. It's the finish now because we're doing this.
That's what I was about to say. That Nia may have messed up, but ultimately it is the referee. And I think of that Jim Ross maxim going through my head: see what you call and call what you see. Mm-hmm. And that referee, if Nia forgot something or not, the referee saw that there wasn't a kick out and should have counted that it was not a kick out, especially since that was going to still be the same winner anyway. It wasn't like changing the finish. I'm wondering almost if Nia didn't thought that they were going to the finish quick because of the Jade Cargill injury and therefore didn't kick out. And whatever the reason for her not kicking out, it was ultimately ref's job, and it just looked awful. It just made everybody look really bad and kind of messed up what up to that point, in fairness, was a pretty decent match.
Yeah,
especially considering that Nia and Jade Cargill, who both made our list, were involved in it. It was all good until that ending, and then just the air went out of the building because of how bad it looked on live TV.
Yes, it did look so bad. Yeah, well, I'm right there with you on that one. That was on my list.
Well, how about your performance then? See if we're
so I'm lumping performance and I almost said manager. That's not right. And match of the week together. I tend to do this a lot now. So I don't always get a chance to watch NXT programming. I was playing catch up on wrestling today because I had, a sliver of time to, catch up on wrestling that I've missed really over the past several weeks. And I stumbled accidentally onto an NXT premium live event that was this weekend and caught Javon Evans. Javon Evans and some dude, I don't know. I forgot his name already. But these two opened the show. And first of all, Javon Evans, performer of the week, absolutely. Everything these two did, the near falls, the offense going back and forth. This was for me, this was like classic wrestling with the flippy floppy high flying stuff from Javon Evans, which I loved, and it was just really blowing my mind. So I got to watch, I kind of like locked in and watched some NXT, but then Booker T's commentary just made it too much for me and I had to check out. But I did make it through that Javon Evans match with dude. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, but you were part of my match of the week. And you, Javon Evans, are my performer of the week because what you do, sir, is awesome.
Brooks Jensen is who you're thinking of.
Thank you.
But it's funny because my performance of the week, Javon Evans. Yeah, he is my performer of the week. Because the dude, I mean, the young OG is going to be a star. There is zero, he has everything at a very, very young age. If he only gets better, he's a future world champion. He is that good. And I'm putting him just for not just that Brooks Jensen match, kicking off NXT. The night before, he had a banger with Sami Zayn on SmackDown, and then left SmackDown and made an appearance over on TNA's pay-per-view. Right. I mean, the dude had a 48 hours that is befitting of someone as talented as he is. So definitely Javon Evans, performance of the week. For my match of the week, that was a great one that you named, Doug. And if you were able to handle Booker T, which I totally understand why you couldn't, I probably should say that the main event of the pay-per-view was the best match of the week, because objectively it probably was. That Omafemi versus Ricky Saints match is worth checking out if you haven't seen it. But I'm going to admit to some proximity bias here. I was lucky enough to be able to attend Collision last night and sit ringside for the broadcast. And I have to say that Kyle Fletcher and a returning commander tore the house down.
No doubt.
Fletcher was great playing the aggressor. Commander fought from underneath, got some of his high spots in, but it wasn't a 50-50 booking kind of thing, which I sometimes think gets overdone. Yeah. Kyle was obviously the guy who controlled much of this, as he should. It was just a great pro wrestling match, and it was a lot of fun live. Definitely the best match that was on last night's card, and therefore is my match of the week.
Woo-hoo, all right. We're taking it home. Look at us.
With that, we are done with another episode of the Two Bros Wrestling Show. You can see our upcoming schedule, which has a lot of pay-per-view previews and reviews coming up through the month of October. October is going to be busy. We hope that you join us. However you watch us, like, subscribe, comment. We appreciate you. And until next week,
go watch some wrestling. Bye, everybody.
See ya.